I'd like to thank everybody for coming here today. It's important. As she stated, we need to get all sides of this issue. I came from the Office of the Special Assistant for Gulf War Illnesses. That was my last assignment, working for the Secretary of Defense, investigating Gulf War illness issues. I see we have some representatives here from DOD in uniform. It's important to know from my perspective, just to tell you quickly, that when I left from there, I didn't feel good about the job DOD did investigating itself. I'm not saying that there's not good people in DOD. I'm saying that the Office of the Special Assistant leaned away from veterans. They leaned away from making sure that the veterans got the help they needed. And for Gulf War veterans, the anthrax shot is part of what they believe to be the reason that they are sick. Not all, but some. And I have personal friends who have refused the vaccine in jeopardy of their own careers because they weren't able to get an answer out of DOD. And the evidence is clearly there. It's been there for a while. It's there for you to read and for you to make up your own mind. I have met with and briefed while I was in uniform Thomas Colosimo, Rhonda Brenneman, who's here today, and many other veterans who are sick and immunocompromised as a result of this vaccine. I'd like to tell you about some of their experiences, and they're really the ones that are the subject matter experts. They're going to come up and talk to you about the things that have affected them. And I would like to tell you that this issue is never important until it happens to you personally, or until it happens to someone you know personally. And it's very important to everyone that's here. But the topic that I was going to talk on is, when is it a good time to point a finger at your government? As was stated, I'm the executive director, and I work for Gulf War illnesses issues and trying to help Gulf War veterans receive compensation and care. It occurred to me that most people believe that right now is not the most opportune time to question our government about the events of the past. And I've noticed little coverage on the recent GAO report. And this bothers and concerns me. Let me explain what I mean. Gulf War veterans, like veterans from other wars, often face dangerous and harmful situations, even prior to the bullets of war or the dangers of combat. And being in the military, as all of you that have served know, is an inherently dangerous job. The rub for most people comes when you retire or you're booted out of the service and you have to fight for benefits and compensation as a result of something that happened to you while you were in the service. For those of us that did join the service and we raised our hands, as part of our faithful service to our government and the people to our left and right, we knew that our government was going to take care of us and not put us into harm's way using an experimental vaccine or an investigational new drug. That's what we believed. That's not necessarily what happened. In the case of service members who have refused to accept the vaccine and were thrown out, their beliefs are vindicated through the GAO report and the mountain of evidence that is available that says something is wrong with the vaccine. It is too clear. You don't have to be a scientist to figure it out. There's going to be a press conference in just a little while by Bioport where they're going to roll out a scientist who's going to counter everything we say. And most people will believe him just because he's a scientist. But I will tell you that it's people like the people that are here that uncover the things that occur to service members. DOD didn't uncover Agent Orange. Vietnam veterans uncovered it. DOD didn't uncover Gulf War illnesses. Gulf War veterans uncovered it. So the service we're doing here today on anthrax and the vaccine is part of what is necessary to find out what's gone wrong. This is one of the many steps that will need to be taken because those who are ill from the shots are right. Because those who refuse the shots and put their careers in jeopardy are justified and vindicated by the GAO report. Our organization has formally requested to the Secretary of the VA, Secretary Principi, that for those people who are sick and ill, they be covered under a presumed service connection as a result of exposure to the vaccine. Because Bioport nor DOD can produce an efficacy study for this vaccine, it is clear that there are problems. And just as they did for Gulf War veterans, when something can't be medically diagnosed or is undiagnosed, we're asking for the same protection and coverage for those people who have refused the shot and have received the shot and are now sick. It was talked about that the 103rd Congress made a report for the last 50 years of biowarfare experiments. And if you haven't read it, you need to read it, because it talks about the things that our government does to itself. Now, I love my country. I'm a Ranger. I just retired. I love the men and the women that I worked with, to the left and to the right. But sometimes people have to stand up and say, something smells, this is wrong. And this report is something that I would like all of you to look at. It clearly states in the report that the anthrax vaccine has been considered approved prior to the Gulf War, but was rarely used. Therefore, its safety, particularly when given to thousands of soldiers, in conjunction with other vaccines, is not well established. Well, what does that mean? That means they don't know what the long-term health effects are going to be. That's what it says. You have to read it, and that's the message they're telling you. And it goes on to say that the anthrax vaccine should continue to be considered as a potential cause for undiagnosed illness in Persian Gulf military personnel. That's our government in the 103rd Congress telling us that something is wrong with the vaccine. And they've said it. They wrote it in the 103rd Congress. But for some reason, there's not enough public momentum, or I don't know what it is. But if you read the report, you'll see what I'm saying. Our senators and our representatives have clearly stated that something's wrong. Now, I suppose that since the 1994 report, if you'll look, you'll see that no one has countered this 103rd Congress session and the findings of the last 50 years. But what we will see as a result of this rally is going to be a massive public relations campaign to put spin on the vaccine. It's already started. Bioport is holding a counter meeting to talk about what we're saying here today as concerned citizens. It's public affairs spin. All we want is the truth. Now, I suppose, and there's a representative from DOD here, or maybe he left. There he is.
I'm in the National Guard.
Okay,
I'm not representing DOD.
I'm sorry.
I'm the Public Affairs Officer.
Thank you.
For the National Guard.
Now, I suppose somebody in DOD is going to correct me after they read this speech and write about it. And in a few days, we're going to see some real aggressive spin about the GAO report. But I don't see how anybody can deny the facts. There's a 15-year-old here that's sitting in the front row, and he can read the report, and if he can understand it, I'm sure everybody here can. It's clear. Now, I always thought that if I served my country with honor and did my job, that my reward of faithful service would be that I was taken care of medically, compensated financially, and especially if the reason that I became ill was due to an experiment, investigational new drug, or a vaccine. Or if during the conduct of war, I was exposed to chemicals, biological agents, or a bullet that might strike my body. It never occurred to me that I would ever have to fight, and I mean really fight, a prolonged war to help veterans receive the benefits that they're rightfully due. It just never occurred to me. My recruiter never filled me in on the mentality of DOD that we're going to get away with what we can get away with until public opinion tells us otherwise. And as I stated, I love my country. I serve my country. But people have to stand up. Now, we're waiting to see if Secretary Principi is going to side with veterans on this issue. We have specifically asked him to cover those people that have received the shot or those people that have refused the shot under Title 38, Section 1118, which gives presumptive connection to any illnesses that might be manifested. Other people are working on other legislative issues on this area. So while we're waiting for the Secretary to answer that question, I wondered, why is it that veterans are the ones that are always responsible for uncovering the mistakes or misdeeds? The answer is they're the ones affected. It's not an issue until it strikes your family. It seems to me that government would take great care to honor its commitment to soldiers after the war and listen to soldiers who are saying something is wrong. If the government does not, very quickly, no one will volunteer to serve. George Washington wrote a long time ago, "The willingness of future generations to serve our military will be directly dependent on how we have treated those who have served in the past." Those words were never more true today. So what's the point? What am I saying? I'm saying that there's never a good time to point your finger at your government. Why? Because we'll never know all of the misdeeds that have occurred. We'll only know about the ones that veterans uncover. Because you expect your government to be honest and helpful, not combative and closed like Bioport was with us today. And Bioport's not the government, but Bioport works directly with DOD. And you have to understand their relationship to understand what's going on. It's about money. And the last thing is, it's the only satisfaction that you'll ever get at a pointing your finger at your government is knowing that you've either helped yourself or you've helped someone else. The recent events of terrorism have catapulted us into a new world where truth will be the most important public affairs tool available. And I would like to tell Bioport that if they want America, and they want you people here and those concerned to feel good about themselves and being Americans, then they should tell the truth. You want America to be calm? Tell the truth. Bioport, tell the truth about the vaccine. Don't wait for the FOIA request. You want Gulf War veterans to believe you, DOD? Then stop lying about what happened to us. Stop mitigating the story as if it were a public affairs campaign. We are watching you. And even though this may not be the most opportune time to question DOD or your government, it is the most opportune time for truth. America has never failed to answer the call to duty. And just because of this issue, it may not affect that call. But the veterans of the war on terrorism do not need to experience the battles of health care and compensation that the people who have received the anthrax vaccine have fought, or Gulf War veterans, or Vietnam veterans. Now, it occurred to me that there's a new thing coming up which is called homeland defense. And it's the new buzzword, and a lot of people are talking about it. And I thought, you want to know what the best homeland defense is? It's truth, honesty, follow through, and commitment. Americans will always rally for that.
Amen.
Thank you.